bit like me and Mike Beckingham, you know, him not being Batman.
Geeks Speak, the definitive 365 cut. These are the meaningless ramblings of a Scottish redone whore and a pissy ex-video store clerk. Their ongoing mission is to set right the movie wrongs. They're gonna need a bigger podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the 365 Flicks podcast. This is episode 63. This is an indie talk episode.
Yeah, it's back again.
It is back again, back with a brand new track.
We can't get enough of that.
I do love a bit of indie talk, and we have an absolutely fantastic interview coming up for you tonight. Would you like to tell the good people who we have?
Yes, I would. So this is an interview with Tom Paton.
Yes.
Or was it Paton? I forget. So Kev, you worked hard on this one.
I did, yeah. Aye.
So on you go. Tell us about Tom.
Well, one of our good colleagues, associates, contacts sent us a screener of a movie called Pandorica, which I sat down and watched and reviewed on the website and absolutely loved. It was great.
It is a good movie.
It's a great independent movie. It kind of took me a little bit by surprise how good it actually was. Sort of a post-apocalyptic sci-fi drama, action, guns, bullets, people,
monsters
and shit. Like, it's got a bit of everything. It's a genre-bursting sort of movie. It's great little film that I think everybody needs to go out and pick up. So yeah, I put the review out there, and it went on the Twitter, as it always does. And someone called Tom Paton got back and said, "Thank you for taking the time to review the movie, and you know, really like the fact that you enjoyed it. Some really nice words in there about the film. Thank you very much." And I was kind of like, "Who's this?" And well, it turned out it was the director. So I then direct messaged him, you know, as you do. Sort of like, "Thank you very much for taking the time to read my review," because most of the stuff I write is just pure bile. So
fucking hell.
Well, it does. Like, you know, when you're writing these things, you assume that general people are finding it, general people are watching it. You don't assume that the guy who made the movie is going to read it and appreciate your words. So the fact that he appreciated it, I was buzzing. I really was. So I thought, I'll chance my arm here. So after a little bit of conversation, I said to him, "How about you come on the podcast and just talk about your movie?" And it was not long after that we spoke to Lance about Pegasus Bridge, in which Mike came on, Mike Beckingham. And then it turned out Mike Beckingham was going to be in Tom's next movie, which is Redwood, coming soon, hopefully.
Which looks brilliant.
And it does look excellent, and it looks like it's coming sooner than we may have actually thought. So that's brilliant news. We don't know much else about it yet. When Tom knows, hopefully we'll know. So it turned out Mike Beckingham was also in that movie. So it was like, well, shit, we've got to talk about that. Turns out the guy runs his own movie company called the Film Label, which sort of applies the music industry model to filmmaking, which straight away was that
was interesting as hell. Yeah,
it really was. I kind of had a feeling it was going to be, which is why I wanted to talk about it. But my God, like, some of the things he was getting into was like yeah, it makes fucking sense. But Tom came on the show. He was an absolute gent. He made time to speak to us, even though he was like editing for like 45 hours straight. He took an hour or two out of his day to speak to us, two cheeky chaps, and we had a fantastic interview.
We did.
Probably one of my favourites so far. I feel like I say that a lot, but this one really was. Like, it was nice to have a Brit director on with us again. We had Fred in the episode before that. It was nice to get another one on. Tom couldn't have been a nicer guy.
We've had a few Brits.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Yeah. I feel that I feel like the English are coming.
The British are coming.
Whatever. I prefer.
That's not taking anything away from Andrea and.
Yeah. I mean, the Andrea and Roberto interview was also fantastic, which has been really well received. That came out last Friday. And I'm really glad that people are taking to that episode. Like, people are really taking to it, and it's nice that people are doing that, because that's a comic book, it's a graphic novel that deserves to be seen.
Definitely,
it's a fantastic book. Andrea and Roberto were brilliant, but I'm super excited about this one.
Pandorica is a cracking movie, and it was great to speak to Tom about it.
He really came out with some great stuff. He gave us like a lot of insider information, and even sort of put the seeds in your head for your movie.
My movie.
I get the feeling that you might be playing in that sandbox and making a Pandorica movie of your own.
I'm not a Pandorica movie. that would be cheating, if anything.
Yeah, but you said you could.
I've been throwing some things around in my head.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
It's just not being such a lazy prick.
Yeah. So 365 production?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's coming.
Excellent.
That's coming.
Will it be a shared universe?
With Buffy.
I don't know. Buffy, yeah. Throw
Why
some
not?
Buffy
Why
in
not?
there. Sarah Michelle Gellar, I'll do it.
There's always time for Buffy.
So yeah, this interview, I couldn't be any more happier with it. I'm super excited to actually get this out there and for you guys to listen to it. As always, we are the 365 Flicks podcast. You can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter, iTunes, Satchel, any other third-party podcast app. The Libsyn is hosting us. Wicked Radio, Tangent Bound, Nerdly, our British home. And yeah, so we be geeks as well. But everybody, sit down, listen to the interview. It's a cool 50 to 55 minutes, and it's really fucking interesting.
It is. Certainly is.
So there you go. Play a little bit of music.
Enjoy.
Every trial is different. But in the end, one of you will emerge the new leader. And we might as well begin.
Who is coming?
I'm sorry, who are you? I'm Vincent. You must be Josh. Your girlfriend was just telling me about your little camping trip.
Vincent's a ranger.
I'm a special kind of ranger, Josh.
What kind of ranger?
Animal control.
Redwood ain't like camping in your backyard.
I thought you said this leveled out. Goddamn vampires.
You see that?
Yeah. It's cool. It's daytime. You'll be fine.
You know this how?
Buffy.
We are joined today with Tom Paton, who is a director and a writer and a producer and an editor, and he writes the theme tune and sings the theme tune for such movies as the one I reviewed on our website a little while back, which was Pandorica, and the upcoming Redwood, which has just finished filming, I believe.
Yeah, it has just finished filming last week, actually.
You were over in Poland for that.
Yeah, it was minus 12, so pretty long day. We were shooting outside for a bulk of it, so I think we were outside for about 22 hours, so it's pretty extreme.
Nice. So basically, obviously, Tom is a very busy man. Like we say, he's just wrapped Redwood, just from over in Poland, but he's spending some time with us tonight to talk about some of his projects, which we are extremely grateful for.
We are, yeah, actually.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure, guys, so thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I have been back and forth on the Twitter for about a month or so. It was one of those things where I received Pandorica via email, can you have a look at this and whatever you think, just sort of give it a little review. And as I said in my review, I wasn't sure what I was getting in for. Absolutely loved the movie, and then I put the review out there and I got a little retweet from a man called Tom Paton. I'm like, oh, who's this? Turns out it's the director, so I was buzzing. So
yeah, I try and stay on it with the Twitter, because obviously when you make a film that's sort of as micro budget as Pandorica was, and it has done crazy well. I mean, the fan reception has been ridiculous considering what we made for it. So I'm trying to be as loyal to the fans as they have to film, so I'm always checking Twitter and I'm always seeing when people have said things about the film and try and say thank you, basically.
Well, I have to be honest, it made my day, and I'm sure I
you sent me a screenshot.
I messaged Chris straight away. I'm like, look at this. So anyway, that's kind of how we got talking. So that's what you hear. We'll talk about some of your projects really, but Pandorica's sort of the reason that I got in touch with you, and it's why I wanted to speak to you, because I mean, Tom, I love this movie, so I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Thanks.
So basically...
No, I mean, it's so good to hear about it, because it's such a weird... Like you say, it's kind of hard, like you didn't know what to expect. It's a weird mashup, So for me, I'm really pleased that people like yourself have received it so well.
So the way I described it is that it's a genre-bursting, futuristic, dystopian, sci-fi, horror, suspense, awesome, 80s Tron soundtrack. It was a mishmash of movies, like you say. How would you best describe to the listeners who are hopefully going to watch after listening to this what Pandorica is?
I guess in some respects you're kind of right. It is this big genre, melting pot. I mean, for me, my personal favourite directors I love people like John Carpenter, obviously, and I think the influences are sort of noticeable in that movie. And I'm a big Neil Marshall fan, and and I love synth scores and stuff as well. So I kind of tried to approach Pandorica, as if it was if John Carpenter was my age now, and he had to make Assault on Precinct 13 all over again, what would that be like in 2015, 16 at the time when we made the film? Because I didn't want to do something that was just one of these like homages. Don't get me wrong, I love a homage movie, but I wanted to make it feel contemporary. So I tried to sort of approach it like, okay, what would that synth score sound like today? What would the visual sound look like today? And we even down to the technology. So I guess you're right. It's a weird genre mashup. It's definitely sci-fi in places. It's definitely some, a sprinkling of horror. I wouldn't say it's a full horror movie, but definitely some elements to that, especially in the masks. And more than anything, to me, it's a fantasy film. It was a film about things that interest me. And I'm very interested in leadership and what makes a good leader. So I kind of just tried to take your average work weekend away and plant it in the future. So that's kind of what we ended with.
Yeah, work weekend away. I wish.
You could see that theme in it. I watched the movie earlier on this week, and same as Kev, I absolutely loved the movie, Tom. But you can see that obviously that theme runs right through the movie. So you're going to be doing more of these, aren't you? Kev said you're planning a trilogy. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, that's cool. I don't mind. I mean, yeah, for me, it's kind of funny because the way Pandorica came about was I was working on another movie called Endemic, and I'd been working on that thing for 2 years, and the script was ready, and we'd done like 10 drafts of it, and it was signed to a Hollywood sales agent. There was going to be a big budget, and I kind of got really frustrated with how sort of slow going the traditional film industry is. So I sort of said, you know what, we'll just go and make something. And, Pandorica really came out of frustration. And, I kind of tried to sink those themes of, getting things done and being a leader into it. And, yeah, it's bizarre because very quickly I wrote the script in like 3 weeks, but there's this huge, expansive mythology. There's all these other tribes and all these other things that I just couldn't fit in. I didn't have the money, I didn't have the time, and so it ended up in a point where like I really like to go back and kind of, I don't know, yeah, as a filmmaker, I guess you look back at your work and Pandorica's still quite fresh, and I look back at it already and think, yeah, I'd have done this and I'd have done that, and so now I kind of think the sequels have a chance to do that. So
that was one of the things that I put in my initial review, is basically that as I was watching it and it's going along, and I'm sitting there thinking, this is a great like catalyst for something else. I was like, this is a great little, and then of course, as I said, like no spoilers obviously, but if you stay till the end credits, you get a little stinger, and straight away when I saw that, I was like, oh goddamn, nice one, brilliant, So I was
that was hilarious. You know what? Like, it sounds. I love, like I said, I love 80s movies, and. Yeah. I used to love, especially in canon films, where they just have like the brass balls to be like, He-Man will return, even though he never did. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's hope for the best. And fortunately, people like the film, so
that's always good to hear.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to mention is the film looks fucking stunning, absolutely stunning. I mean, was that when you were filming on location, what have you? Did you pick that location just for? This looks amazing. We've got to put this. We've got to film it here.
Okay, right. So I'll give you the whole sordid story. First of all, a massive shout out to George Burt, who is he's my director of photography. And I've worked with George for about 7 or 8 years now. We did music videos and commercials together, and we now work at the film label together as well. And so. He's got a really, kind of wonderful eye for cinematography, especially on shoestring budgets. And I'm a real tech head. So I wanted to really push the boundaries of what you could, do for a low budget movie and use modern tech. And so we used a camera called the A7S. It's basically a prosumer camera. You can go out and buy one now for like £3,000. And, and this camera's got ultra low light capabilities. So the idea was, okay, like who would be crazy enough to make a film on this budget, outdoors, in the UK, in September, all at night, with no money? So I was like, I'm crazy. Let's do it. And so we used this camera to really sort of push those boundaries. And, right from the very beginning, I knew I wanted it all set at night. I knew I wanted to see what we could do with it. And here's something not a lot of people know. And I guess if you're not really into cameras, maybe it's not that interesting to you. But nearly all the movies that you ever watch, they're shot at 800 ISO, which basically means the amount of light the camera can let in before it goes all noisy and you can't see anything. Pandorica is actually shot at 20,000 ISO, wow, which is unheard of. No one's ever done that before. And we only had 2 lights. That's it. That's all we could afford was 2 lights. So we had a big light that was lighting the background of the forest, and we had a hilarious rig that George Burt built. So normally, if you want to hire these big helium balloons that make people look great, they're about £2,000 a day. Obviously, we couldn't afford it. So George came up with this system where he used a couple of LED panels and brought one of these £30 white balloons meant for a bride at a wedding, and he bounced the light off of that. So he sort of had this hilarious portable balloon on a string, and that was the moon. So yeah, I'm really proud of how it looks, and it's so DIY. It was so tech pushing, and that's what I'm most proud of. And of course, it's the thing that no one gives a shit about. So it's quite funny, but I'm really proud of that.
But you know what?
The location, the location is a paintball arena, believe it or not.
Yeah. I saw that on. I'm sure, like it's in the thank you bits at the end of the credit, and you kind of mentioned that. And so, I mean, what goes into turning a paintball arena into looking like a desolate wasteland?
We tried everywhere. We went to National Trust. We went to different forests that had the right look, and all of them were so against filming. If I'm going to have a little rant publicly, shame on these organisations, because instead of encouraging independent movies, they just want Snow White and the Huntsman. And in fact, the National Trust quoted us. They said, "Oh, we had Snow White and the Huntsman, and they gave us £4,000 a day." And it's like, well, great, we've not got Chris Hemsworth, so never mind. So you kind of have to get ingenious and inventive, and we searched everywhere. And I think it was actually my wife in the end. She was like, "What about a paintball arena?" And so we googled this place. We actually found that an airsoft arena. It's where these guys go and fire BB bullets at each other. Crazy. I don't know why you'd do that, but
that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, exactly. And it turns out the biggest softball arena is actually a 25-minute drive from where I live. So I basically jumped in the car, drove up there, met this one bloke called Jim, and he was like, "Yeah, I own all of this. I don't report to the council." I was like, "Are we allowed to have fire here?" He's like, "Absolutely." I'm like, "Are we allowed to use a gun here?" He's like, "I'll sell you the gun," which he did. So the gun from the film, and he was just awesome, and we're walking around this arena, and of course you've got all these like things that he's put in there for people to play with. Like one of the big features he's got was this Viet Cong village, and I said to him, "Look, can we just make this? We'll make this look amazing," because it was made of MDF boards at the time, and then you can keep it afterwards. So he's now got the best Viet Cong village ever down at his paintball arena. But the whole thing was just awesome. I couldn't have got a better gift really in terms of a location, and I would go and shoot there again in a heartbeat because it was convenient and fun.
So independent filmmaking at its absolute best.
That's really crappy though. That really sucks that they, the National Trust and all that kind of thing would say that to you. That's really, really bad.
You could, I suppose, as independent filmmakers, you've got 2 options. You can either just film and hope for the best, or you can try and go, the actual routes. I just wish there was some sort of government system in place that was, designed to help people to just go and shoot, and you've got the BFI and stuff at the moment, but they don't want you to apply and go for grants and all that stuff, and that's no good if you're the kind of person like I am that just thinks, I'm going to make a movie and I want to go and make a movie now. You don't want to have to wait around for 2 years. So yeah, National Trust give yourself a kick in the ass.
So the place that independent movies can live or die is your cast. And I think in this movie, you've got a cracking cast here. I mean, Mark Zammett, who we recently saw in
The Journey.
In The Journey, he plays a small role in that for Lance. He's incredible in this movie as Ares. You've got Adam Bond as Thade, who's like massive right now. He's kind of blowing up. I mean, how did you go about getting these cast members? And
at first we kind of tried to go the more traditional casting route, and we sort of did the Star Now and stuff, and it just, for me, it was a time thing. It was like, I haven't got time to go through, 5,000 applicants. And over the years, people have sort of followed me on Twitter and, maybe caught my attention on Facebook or something. And originally, that's how I found Mark Zammett. He followed me on Twitter. I followed him back. I kind of kept my eye on him and thought, this guy's quite interesting. He came in for his audition and, he won't mind me telling you this. The first time he auditioned, he tried every accent. He ran the entire planetary gauntlet of accents and... my producer was just like, "Are you sure you want to cast this guy?" I was like, "We'll give him another go." And he came back in and did another audition, and he absolutely nailed it. So he was kind of a shoo-in straight away. Adam Bond, he'd previously worked with George Burt, and he actually knew Bentley Kalu, who ended up playing Nine. So Adam joined the party, and then he brought Bentley with him, which was a real blessing because Bentley's just like a force of nature, He was almost uncontrollable for me as a director, because he'd come on set and, I was like, I think we should do this accent. And he'd be like, no, I'm doing the African accent. I'd be like, okay, doing the African accent. And then, we had Laura Marie Howard, who, she'd done a few bit parts, but, this was, she came and she actually auditioned for Erin at first, and we were like, I think she'd be a good Flynn, so we moved her over. And the real hard one to find was actually Erin, who's played by Jay Phoenix Hobday, and we tried so many different girls, and she's a model by trade. We put her on the mood board, and we just tried to find a girl that she's like the girl off the mood board, and it just wasn't working. So in the end, I sent her a message on Facebook. I was like, "Hey, do you want to come and audition for a film?" She did, and she was amazing. So we were like, "Wow, okay, great, let's give her the part." Turns out she'd never acted before, so that was a pretty bold move on our part. But I think she's incredible in the film, and she's gonna have a huge career, I think. So we got real lucky there.
Absolutely, she is phenomenal in that movie. She really is.
I got to shout Luke De Silva out as well, the guy that plays Nuss. Me and him have known each other for 10 years. He's like my muse, I put him in everything.
This was actually a question that I had for you, Luke De Silva. I can honestly say, I'll hold my hands up, I've never really seen him in anything. He's amazing as Nuss. He's absolutely amazing. Yeah. He kind of has this sort of, you're watching Vikings now. He's got this sort of folky kind of sense about him, but a little bit more like worldy. I really liked him, and I hadn't seen him in anything, so I'm glad you pointed that one out. For me, I kind of look at Luke like a bit like an Ian McShane. He's a bit later on in life, but I think he's just such an amazing character actor. You give him anything, and he just immerses himself in it. And I think, and I hope to God, people really, pick up on him. And he's actually in my next film, and he's kind of like I said, for me, when I started making films, 10 years ago, I'm 31 now. I started when I was 20, and no one would work with me, no one would do anything. But Luke De Silva always showed up. He was like, I'll come and do it. And so now I feel, mate, I wouldn't be here without people like Luke. So I kind of see it as my responsibility to make sure that Luke's put out there. So I'm basically going to put him in everything ever. So you'll see loads of Luke. So he's your Jason Mewes now.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? I think that's part of the beauty of filmmaking. It's collaborating, and it's remembering who patted you on the back and remembering to pat them back, and and I think that as long as you keep that attitude, you'll do all right. I'm hoping anyway. So.
That's a really fresh way of listening. Like hearing that, you don't often hear that kind of thing going on in this industry. Like, I know we haven't spoke to a great deal of people, but sometimes you just hear that it's this close knit thing.
The people that we have spoken to, it is very much like that, isn't it? It's like the people that you treat right, they're going to be loyal to you, kind of thing.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. There's some directors out there, that are, for want of a better word, douchebags. They they see themselves as this visionary and they don't need anyone, and like it's all them, they did everything. But that's really not my approach. You know, for me, it's such a collaborative effort. You know, like I couldn't do the things that I've managed to do this past, year, 18 months without the team around me, and every single one of them is integral and important. And I try and always remember, although it's me doing the interviews or it's me at the Comic-Con on the stage or whatever, it's all of our success. You know, we all did that together. So
yeah, sure. So obviously you filmed it on was that a 75k budget?
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah.
So can you give us some background then, Tom, on what's involved or what the challenges are in making a movie as beautiful as Pandorica on that kind of budget? What are the challenges involved there?
Do you know what? I guess when you're at it at the time, you kind of feel, oh, if I had more money, it would be different. It could be this, we could do that. But I honestly believe now, after I've done two full feature films now, and I really believe that actually filmmaking is the same whether you've got 150 million quid or you've got 75 grand like we did. You know, it's all about problem solving, and as a director, essentially that's what you are. You're a problem solver, and I think this is probably true of all art. You've got to fix whatever happens, and it's your own fault. You started the problem. You said, hey, I want to make a film. So the trick is to not get wound up or angry or to take anything personally. If it suddenly starts raining, it's not the film gods that haven't turned on you and not trying to punish you. It's just something for you to work around. And so I always try to keep a level head and just okay, what's the problem? Let's deal with it. If we have to adjust the script, then that's what we have to do. It's just about getting the job done. And of course, it's challenging. When you haven't got money to throw at stuff. But I genuinely think that will never be my approach to filmmaking. I don't think I'll ever throw money at a problem when there's always an easy fix. And a great example on Pandorica was, like I said, we only had the two lights and the whole set night, and we had this generator on set, and this thing was rickety. I'm trying not to swear, but this thing was old, and when we first looked at it, we were like, is this gonna last the whole shoot? Because if the generator breaks, we're screwed. We've got no budget, we've got no contingency, we can't replace it. So we're shooting away and it's all going fine, and then on day 6 the generator exploded. It just stopped, and it was right by lunchtime, and very calmly, none of the cast picked up on it. We just said, hey everyone, we've turned the lights off, it's lunchtime now, go back to base camp. And then we quickly got together with the crew and like, what the hell are we going to do? And me and George are coming up with ways we can just use LED panels. And this guy, Anto, and Craig, who was the line producer, said, oh, we've got this. And Anto said, all I need is 3 raw eggs. And I was like, what the hell are you going to do with 3 raw eggs? Don't ask me questions, just get me 3 raw eggs. So we got him 3 raw eggs. And he went off, and 10 minutes later, the generator came back on. And I still don't know how he did it. That just shows you that you can fix anything with a bit of ingenuity and YouTube. So, it's challenging and it's tough, but it's all fun. And I don't really think there's a difference between the super low end and the super high end in terms of your daily challenges. It's the same old stuff you're having to deal with. So
you couldn't. I mean, there are a lot of films that you see on, like, say, the Sci-Fi Channel and stuff like that, where you can tell that they had absolutely no money. But with this, I didn't get that at all.
No, you don't
at all. And there is one moment where that I wanted to mention when you were on about the light rigging and all that. It's the bit where they light the fire.
Yeah.
And it's dark and it's it's moody as hell. And they light the fire and they say, what was it? Once we light this, we don't know what's coming out of the dark, or something along those lines. But that was great. That was really, really tense. But. It's a similar thing to the shark in Jaws, where less is more. It looked, as I say, it looked moody as hell, and you just have the light coming from the fire. It looked great, absolutely great.
Thanks. I always chuckle at that moment because for me, it's like the music gets really dramatic and it's like this big moment, but really it's just a fire. And I always laugh because it does. I do feel like that moment really works, and it's I think again it's just. You can have all the money in the world, and if your story isn't very good, having a CGI monster appear isn't going to save your ass. And and I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, Pandorica's the best thing since sliced bread." You know what? Because it's you know, for me, I'm very, very proud of the film, but I think I've got more in me. But at the same time, we didn't try and be stale. We didn't try and do something that, you know, we didn't do the normal low budget thing, which is, you know, two guys wake up in a car park where they've got no memory. You know, we were like, no, let's try and push the boundaries and do something. And I think that hopefully that is the first of many from other filmmakers. You know, I like to feel that in this last year, I've met a lot of filmmakers that have come over to me and said, you know what, I was going to make a film set in a caravan, and then I saw Pandorica, and do you know what, I'm gonna go big. I'm like, cool, go for it. Phone me if you need any help. And nice. I'm glad that we could do that. So
you're talking about the stale cliches and all that you didn't go for. Was there ever a moment in any draft of your script that you had a Statue of Liberty moment?
Yeah, right, okay. So what I actually wanted to do, and in the end, sort of everybody talked me out of it, but I still mourn this version of the movie. So the first 5 drafts of that script, the entire first 30 minutes is in Verosian, like a completely made-up language, all subtitled.
Yeah.
And you don't know it's the future. There was no start cards of anything. You were sort of like, well, this is a weird-looking Viking film. And then you would have Flynn run out of the forest with the gun, and she would speak English, and then our characters would start to speak English, and that was when you'd find out it was the future. But everyone kept saying to me, dude, it's not Planet of the Apes, man. Just give them English. I ended up going for the, you know, but because I'd already written the language from scratch, you know, I didn't want to lose it completely, so I tried to keep it in the film, you know, and leave it with the swear words and the prayer and stuff. But yeah, I do slightly mourn that version in my head. I watched the film now and I'm like, with the subtitles though, could have been good.
That was just that was just one of my thoughts as I was watching it. I'm thinking to myself, we're going to get to the end and it's going to be either you know, Planet of the Apes or The Village.
There's a road and some cars come past. Yeah. No, do you know what? I think it was. I think, you know, if we had the money, perhaps we would have put. You know, because we keep talking about going to the edge of the old world, perhaps we would have put, you know, some ruined city or something in the background. But in reflection, you know, it wouldn't have felt true to the story. You know, the film is really about what happens when you know. And I think what I was trying to go for is, like, you know, it's fragile. We like to think we've built these big skyscrapers and stuff, and, you know, we're here forever. But the truth is, all of that would be gone in 300 years if we suddenly vanished. Then I'm happy that we didn't end up going that route now. It was a tempting thing to do, but it worked out for the best, I think.
It makes more sense the way it went, and I like the way it ends because, well, let's just get into it. Can you give us anything on what's coming next? Is there anything you'd like to give away? Yeah,
so basically I have a plan for Pandorica. I didn't really at first think I was going to go this route, but I fell very much in love with the backstory of Nuss and Erin and Aris's father. So I've decided, you know, we did do a prequel comic to the film, which came out through my Geek box, and you know, it kind of got well received, and it was a very shortened version of what happened on Nuss's trial. And now I've decided, you know what, I really want to explore that. So we're going to do a prequel to the film called Turncoat, which will all be about Nuss and Aris's dad and Erin's father, and it's a very different film to this Pandorica, because you know, the guys start as real friends in this film. You know, there's no real enemy between them. You know, and their previous leader, who's called Alaric, is nothing like Nuss's in Pandorica. You know, this guy sods off right at the beginning of the journey. So the whole film is more about them just getting to the trial. You know, we finished there, as opposed to, you know, make a big thing out of the trial. So it's a very different look at what could go wrong and what can happen there. And we also set up the mythology for the box as well in that movie. And then we're going to do a sequel called Assault on Pandorica, which we'll pick up with Erin 1 year later. And she's a really shit leader. People don't like her. She's no respect. She's no respect for tradition, and, you know, and I'm using it as well because I feel there's a real sort of uncompassionate tone to the world at the moment. You know, people aren't being very friendly towards outsiders, etc. So, you know, the whole crux of the film is another tribe, a refugee tribe, show up, and, you know, they're living on the outskirts of Arosha, and it turns out they're there because of what Erin did in Pandorica 1. So she brings them into the community, and obviously there's a lot of anti-immigration vibes, and the whole film is about, being a leader is so much more than just winning the competition. It's all well and good winning the trial, but then actually being the leader is a totally different ball game. So I think they're very different movies. I think bizarrely you'll probably watch Pandorica 1 in a few years, and it might not even seem like it belongs with these other films. They're tonally very different, all three of them, and intentionally so. So, and I'd like to see other people play in it. If they're successful, I'd like to give other directors the chance to go, it's a big world and it ended, so make your own tribe up and thread it in, and then see what we come up with.
Nice,
that's pretty cool.
I like
there's not many creators would say that.
Yeah, bit of a shared universe.
There you go. 365 Productions version of Pandorica.
Yep. So
we pitch down and email it.
Oh, I don't know. I could definitely come up with something. I'll just set it in Berwick.
Oh, I just end up having Buffy in it or something like that, man.
So before
well, as you know, I'm a big Buffy fan, so that's fine with me.
So before we kind of move on to the next thing I kind of want to talk about, can you tell our listeners where exactly they can find Pandorica and where they can see it and where they can watch it?
Yeah, and Pandorica's out now on nearly all platforms. It is coming to Netflix later this year, but at the moment it's on Amazon Prime, iTunes, Google Play, Vimeo on demand. So yeah, just go out, support the film, and after you've watched it, if you could do us a huge favour and go and review it, because the more people review and engage with the film, the more people find it, and it means a lot to us that people are supporting the film as much as they are. And we'll be touring the Comic-Cons and stuff throughout the UK later this year, so come and say hey after you.
Very nice.
Good stuff.
So, and it's 365 recommended.
Oh, it is very, very much so. Very much so. Yeah.
And also, I did have one more. I did have one more question, but I must have taken it out later on. Jade, you say this is her first acting role, and you were surprised at the role that she put in. Did you expect at any time she was going to absolutely Sigourney Weaver your movie?
Do you know what? Yeah, I think when she first came in for that audition, don't get, we screen tested all these different girls, and for me, I always try and do auditions. I bring the camera in with me and I set it up, and I'll always say to the person after they've done their audition, I'll say, okay, can we just do 20 seconds? I don't want you to do anything, just stand there, and we'll zoom in with the lens. And I think you can tell a great actor when they're interesting when they're not doing anything. Like a great actor can't help but be interesting even when they're not trying to be.
Yeah.
And Jade did that straight away. The minute we just left the camera on, I was like, God, even if Erin never said a word, I think people would still like her. So we got very lucky, and I think I'm hoping anyway that she can go on to, as a character anyway, kind of get embraced a little bit. We tried to really Jade's model, so she has all these lingerie pictures and all these things out there, and Erin's the total reverse. I really didn't want to sexualize her in any way. We really didn't want to do anything that felt unnatural. She's written like a woman rather than, I think a lot of guys try to write female characters like a man, and that's like, I'll write my female character like a man, and that means she's a strong character. And I was like, no. So we tried to put that, vulnerability into Erin, but she's strong and she's tough and she takes no nonsense. And, Jade was a blessing. Without her, we'd have been screwed, I think.
She is great. She is
very
brilliant.
Yeah, she is.
So you're not only a director, writer, producer, and just an all-round nice guy, supposedly, as it seems. You're also the co-founder of an innovative and some would say groundbreaking production company in the film label.
Yeah, yeah, I am.
Can you tell us a little bit about the film label and what you guys do?
Yeah, of course. So again, this sort of came out of my frustration with the way the film world works at the moment, because I'm self-taught. I didn't go to university. I was 20 years old. I was working abroad as a holiday rep, believe it or not, and I knew I wanted to make films for a living. And I decided, I'm going to teach myself. And so I stayed abroad and I started filming nightclubs and all this stuff. And I taught myself to film. I taught myself to edit. And then that quickly became DJ tours and then music videos and then commercials. And so I was used to this sort of progression and very much on the trigger with how technology is changing filmmaking and when I kind of entered the real film world, if you will, the traditional film world, everything ground to a halt. And I was like, this is how we make movies. You know, you put a pitch in and you don't make the thing for 5 years and then it doesn't, you know, it's ridiculous. And I kind of felt strongly that other filmmakers like me that were coming from the same background that the industry's never really seen before weren't going to be very happy with that. So I kind of said, okay, let's use the music label model and we'll adapt it and we'll swap music for independent movies. Nick Sadler joined, who's a record label boss, and George Burt came on board from a production perspective. And our whole focus is to give voice to up and coming filmmakers and not screw them either. You know, we're not in it to bank all the money. Like, we want them to bank the money because we want them to make more movies, you know, because it's good for everybody. And then hopefully we can all follow a similar trajectory to the one that I've taken. And, you know, we've done exactly that. You know, we made Dark Beacon with Corey Greenock last year. It shot last summer at the same time that I was shooting Redwood. And, you know, I watched the cut last week. It's a fantastic horror movie. Corey's done an incredible job. And, you know, he'll be the first non-me film that comes out on the label. We're working with a guy, Sam Ashurst, who's got an incredible script called Arcadia State. So we'll hopefully get that done this year. And the whole focus of what we're doing is to really give platform and voice to indie filmmakers and say, look, you can go the traditional route, but you can also use us as this backup. You know, if you feel the traditional route is trying to almost go around you or take your creation from you, bring it to us. We can put it on all platforms for you, and we can make sure it gets the attention that it deserves without you losing control of it. So far so good. We'll speak again in a year, I guess, and see how many films we've put out, I guess.
The industry feels quite exciting right now, doesn't it? The independent film industry feels really exciting.
It does.
You know, with like sort of like video on demand is much more accessible and all that kind of thing. So, would you say there's a kind of hype going on right now with it?
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? Really exciting. There's two things that really excite me, and the first is the quality of filmmaker coming through. You know, if you go back 10 years in time, 15 years in time, you know, unless you had a load of money or, you know, your parents were already involved in film or, you know, you knew someone in film, it was very hard for you to get out and make something. You know, you could be at university, I guess, and borrow the uni equipment. But that's changed. You know, for the first time in film history, the whole thing's been democratized. If you own an iPhone 7 and you've got a spare 300 quid, you can go and buy a DJI mobile, and chances are you're going to have something that looks incredible and will stand up and hold up on a cinema screen. So, you know, really, I feel like the whole thing has become like a sketch artist now. It's like if you've got a pencil and paper, you can draw something. If you've got access to a camera and, you know, and you've got a good story to tell and you know, you're a great artist, then you can go and make it. And I think we're going to see a wave of really incredible stuff. You know, I look at some of the things that 16, 17-year-olds are making on YouTube in their back garden. I'm like, I couldn't do that. Jesus Christ. You know, so what those guys are going to do, you know, and what they're going to bring to the party, I think is incredible. But the real challenge is going to be there's now more content than ever. It's so easy to make something now. How do you know when something's good or bad? Where do you watch it? How do you view it? You know, and I have mixed feelings about, you know, how much of a role digital aggregation will play in that. You know, I think it's super important. You need to give people access to your film wherever, but you also need to make your money back. I think that's where alternative distribution comes in, and being clever and finding ways to put the film in people's hands for money that potentially people didn't think of before. And, you know, we're doing just that at the label and coming up with clever ways to do that for people. So I think it's exciting times. I really do. And I have no idea what's going to happen. It's scary because, you know, for a filmmaker like me, I mean, by traditional standards, I'm a young filmmaker, but I see some of the things coming through and I just think, wow, you know, these guys are going to be incredible, and they're starting so young. You know, they're starting to learn film at 13. You know, they're on Adobe After Effects, you know, making bloody dinosaurs by the time they're 15, and it's like, these guys are going to do amazing things, and I can't wait to see what we get, to be honest.
I know what you mean. Like, it feels like back in the mid to late 90s and the early 2000s, there was a very big independent boom. But like you say, with this, like the social media, the YouTube, the Vines, and just even the Vines, for Christ's sake, 7-second videos, there seems to be a massive boom, and I'm quite excited about it as well, I have to say.
Yeah, well, it just comes down to now, truthfully, 5 years from now, we're just going to look and, it won't matter what it was shot on. It won't matter what the budget was. What will matter is it any good? And that to me is great. That's the same it's the same way the music industry works now. We won't get bloody I Frankenstein in the cinema anymore because it's shit. So, you know what I mean? So, and hopefully what we'll see is, and I think you can kind of sense this is beginning to happen in Hollywood, and it will trickle down for the rest of us, is you'll see this rise of quality, is it any good? Because people want to watch good stuff now, and that's what it comes down to. And I think the other important thing, if you're an indie filmmaker and you're just starting out is, and I think Pandorica hopefully proves this point, think about your intellectual property, think about where does the film go after this? Don't just think about one movie. Think about, okay, I'm going to make this one for cheap, but then what's the sequel going to be like? And what's this going to happen? And can I do a comic? Can we do these things? Because I think what we're going to see is, if you go back like 10, 15 years again, we used to get these cool 5 million, 10 million films that were original. Well, they've all gone now, right? Like, no one's making them. Like, now you've either got big blockbusters or you've got low-budget movies. And then in the middle there, you've got Blumhouse making horror films like The Conjuring, right? And I think what we're going to see, don't get me wrong, I love the films, but, those are the only mid-budget movies getting made. And I think what we're going to see there is things like Pandorica sort of going, okay, look, we've got an audience, let's make another one. Let's make the audience bigger. And then eventually we become a safe bet for a studio, and they say, you know what, we'll spend 10 mil on a Pandorica film because we know it's got an audience and we can watch those other three and we know they're not going to suck. And, and I think that's what we'll start to see as well, is like big franchises coming from nothing. They'll start really small and then eventually they'll end up really big and in cinemas. And again, that to me is awesome because it gives voice to some bonkers ideas, I think. So,
yeah, it's encouraging for guys who have labels like yourselves, where it's not all DC and it's not all Marvel and it's not all Star Wars and that kind of thing. There is a chance. There is a chance for this to come through.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like my goal, like nearly every filmmaker, there's one thing that I don't believe is when a filmmaker says, "Oh, I only ever want to work in indie." I'm like, you're kind of lying, aren't you, mate? We've all dreamed of making Star Wars. We've all dreamed of that, and like that is my goal. That my intention is to get to that level, but at the same time, not to neglect independent movies. What I'd love for my career is a studio movie, and then an independent. So it's like one for the scale and the the kudos, and then one for me, and then go back and do it again. So, and I think a lot of filmmakers will start to adopt that philosophy as well, because there's freedom in independent film. It's so freeing to be like, I was going to hang out with my mates in a paintball arena and try and make it look like
it does sound awesome.
Just shoot him and make it look good.
It does sound awesome in a paintball arena.
Yeah.
Just kind of blows you away a little bit. I know Chris is absolutely dying to speak about this, but your next movie coming out, the movie that we've spoken about a couple of times now, is Redwood.
Yeah, it is.
We recently had Mike Beckingham on the show to talk about Pegasus Bridge with Lance, and Mike's an awesome little lad. Like,
he's a good guy. He is a good guy.
He was cool. He was cool as balls. So can you tell us a little bit about Redwood? Like what the sort of the general story is? I've seen the trailer myself, but it's sort of like, what's it about?
Well, I've gone back to the woods again, but on a bigger scale, like a much bigger scale this time. But so Redwood it's about a couple who go camping, and they are out there because one of them is terminally ill, and so it's very, very dark. But at the same time, there's so much humour and stuff going on in the film, and they do the thing you're not supposed to do in a horror film, and they go off track, and they find themselves up against some pretty nasty vampires, and we have some interesting park rangers and stuff in, and there's a lot of world building and mythology going on. But it's cool, with that movie. We talked about cliches earlier. Well, I actually do love a cliche, but I love them in the sense that I love to do them and then point them out. Like, oh, see that? I did a cliche. How funny is that? And with Redwood, I fully went for it. We did, every horror cliche I could think of. Couple go camping, cabin in the woods, monsters in the tree line, like dubious, local hicks. And I put them all in there. And then I did this thing where I gave the main character this horrible illness. And the whole idea was to sort of say, look, you know, horror films are scary, but they're not as scary as real life. You know, and the characters are constantly referring to the cliches that are going on around them whilst dealing with this really horrible thing. So I'm really, really proud of the film. I can't wait for you guys to watch it, to be honest.
Yes, same here. I'm really looking forward to it. The trailer looks brilliant.
It looks fun. It looks like a lot of fun. And I love a good vampire movie. They're not twinkling, are they?
Oh, no, never that. You can't be having that.
We tried to do something a bit different with them. They're sort of they're a hybrid, I guess, of like Wendigo mythology and vampire mythology. And there's some new elements going on in there. I tried to not retread any old ground, you know, and that's really difficult to do in a vampire film, to not go near, you know, what's been done by everybody else is super hard, but I think we just about pulled it off. So
there is a moment at the end of the trailer where Mike's character is asked, how did you, or where did you learn how to do that? And he goes, from Buffy.
Yeah.
I love that moment.
That joke was actually in the script. So what happened was, I mean, and this is random, I got approached by these guys at Cannes. They said, we're making this vampire movie. We'd love you to direct it. I heard the original concept and was like, it's not really for me. Said no. Then they said, well, you can make whatever you want. Like, we'll fly you out, we'll show you the locations in Poland, and you can make whatever you want. 3 rules, though. It has to have vampires in it. You have to shoot it on these locations, and you have to shoot it in August. And I was like, Jesus Christ, man, it's like end of June. Like, you know, it's like no time at all. So I went and saw the locations. Me and George went out there, and they're just phenomenal locales. And so I went home. I very quickly wrote a script. You know, I think in like 2 days I wrote the script for Redwood. Nice. And the Buffy joke was in there. It was always in there. And then Nicholas Brendon messaged saying he loved Pandorica. And it was like the fates aligned, and I was like, hey, I'm doing this vampire movie. Do you want to be in it? And he agreed in the end. And there was some debate, do I take the Buffy joke out or not? And I was like, hell no, man, I'm leaving that in. So it wasn't like it was there because Nicholas Brendon was there. It was actually the other way around.
I was going to ask how the hell you got Nicholas Brendon in there, but that's answered that.
You know what? Like, honestly, it was crazy because I'm an absolute massive Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. You know, I grew up on it. I think, you know, when you watch the way I write dialogue, it's impossible to not be influenced by Joss and Buffy and the language used in that show. And I was an even bigger fan of Angel, bizarrely. I know it's unpopular, but I personally loved Angel. I think season 3 of that was great. So, yeah, for me to have Nicholas Brendon want to work with me was just mind-blowing. I was just like, is this a real thing? Is this a joke? You know, and then he flew from LA to Poland, and like he came on set, and I'm trying to play it cool. And I'm like, hey, Nicky, thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. Like, you know, like if you just, you know, stand there and I blocked the scene with him and Mike and Tatiana, the other 2 actors. And then I went back to my monitor and I put my headphones on and I turned to my AD, Craig, and I just went, it's Nicholas Brendon. You know, just like this really kid. Because it was such a cool moment for me as a director, you know. And I'll always be grateful for Nicholas for saying yes to come and do it. So
I'm assuming you were, as I would have been in that situation, where before you met him, you were saying to yourself, "Don't call him Xander, don't call him Xander, don't call him Xander."
Yeah, it's difficult, you know. Like he's such a presence on camera, you know. Like there was this moment, and it's in the trailer actually, so I'm not spoiling anything. But you know, the line of dialogue was, I think Josh, the main character, says, you know, you don't look like a ranger, and in the script it said, well, I'm a different kind of ranger, and it was sort of meant with menace. And, you know, Nicky did a few takes of that version, and then he said to me, I want to try something, Tom. I was like, yeah, mate, you're Nicholas Brendon, you do what you want. You know, he then looked at camera and he said, well, I'm a special kind of ranger. And it was like Xander appeared on set for a second there. I said that to him, and he was totally cool with it. But, you know, like, for me, that was a defining moment of the film. That's why I put it in the beginning of the trailer, because he just nailed being Xander for me.
So how did Mike come about? How did you get Mike into Redwood?
You know, it's similar. He saw Pandorica. He came to the cinema to watch the film, and he approached me afterwards. You know, we swapped details, and I knew the film was coming up, and so I was looking for a lead actor for the, you know, it's the whole film literally rests on these two people's shoulders, you know, and they had to be super believable, you know, they had to be super likable, you know, and it was really important to me that at no point, you know, did this idea, you know, because like putting cancer in a film, like who the hell thinks film about cancer, sign me up, you know, like, and like I was very aware of that, and I wanted to make sure that the film was in no way po-faced, you know, it's not. There's nothing about it that screams, oh God, it's like a, you know, bloody Julia Roberts movie. Like it's you know, I needed a character that could approach that illness with the sort of light of touch and be like, you know what, it's happening to me, but you know, those are the breaks kind of thing. And Mike, he's just such an easygoing guy. He's so cool and laid back, and you know, he came and hung out with me down where I live in Essex, and you know, we went out for some beers. We're supposed to meet for an hour. And then it was like 9 hours later, and we were around my flat getting drunk and stuff. And I was like, okay, this guy's great. So I really fought to get the part, and I'm glad we did, because his performance in the film is just phenomenal. And yeah, Mike's got something to prove, you know. Like Mike wants people to see just how good he really is, and that shines through in the movie. And the same goes for Tatiana, who plays you know, the lead actress Beth. You know, she's similar passion, similar sort of screen presence, you know, and you put them together, and it's just really engaging and super watchable. So I'm really proud of what we've done.
I mean, so far we've seen the trailer, and the trailer looks great. So I am really looking forward to seeing this film when it comes out. Do you have any idea when it might be coming? Or I know there's no release date as yet, but
it's one of these, because it's a bigger movie than Pandorica. You know, on Pandorica we had a sense of control. We could say, hey, we're going to release here, and that's that. But with Redwood, you know, there's a crazy amount of interest. So I don't know where it's going to go. I mean, we're having talks with some of the bigger you know, studio labels about taking it, because I think, you know, the idea of Xander in a vampire film, you know, it's got a lot of weight to it. So I'm hoping you're going to see it this year. I think definitely we'll see it at some festivals and some of the Comic-Cons. That I potentially might be screening it in March to an audience that I feel like I owe a lot to for Pandorica, which is Sci-Fi Weekender. It's not a guaranteed, but we're going to try. So yeah, I think some people will definitely be seeing it this year, and then hopefully it will go on release this year too. But you know, we'll have to wait and see. I'll let you guys know that as soon as I know.
Nice.
Excellent. We honestly can't wait to see that. There is one thing I wanted to ask you. There was a conversation going on Mike's Facebook page. I think it was Sunday night, where I kind of got the feeling that we were in the middle of some beef between you and Mike. Because Mike said under no circumstances were we to allow you to say that you're Batman.
Well, that's because Mike's not Batman, and you know, and he takes that very hard, you know. I mean, we've all got a dream, right? We've all got to aspire to something. Sadly, he's not Batman. Random story. I've got a thing for Batman memes. I love, you know, sending Batman Dark Knight memes. Yeah. I'm like, no one writes a meme like Chris Nolan. Do you know what I mean? So, and Mike and me are always sending memes to each other, and he sent me this one that was basically Commissioner Gordon saying thank you saying, oh, I never got to say thank you, Batman, and then Batman says you never have to, and I messaged back saying obviously I'm Batman in this situation, and then he messaged back saying no, I'm Batman, you're Gordon. I was like no, I'm Batman, and it's just never really stopped since then. So yeah, just to clear this up once and for all though, because I know he's already been on, so has no chance of coming back. I am actually Batman and he's not. So.
Nice.
So we'll have a return visit from Mike then in a few weeks' time to say he's Batman.
You're gonna phone up, I'm Batman, you just hang up.
We'll be getting an email saying, right, now that he said that, I want on.
You do a whole podcast in the voice of Christian Bale.
I'm up for it. I'll do anything now. So beyond Redwood, we've already mentioned a couple of other little bits and pieces that you have, but what's sort of your next project that you're going to be working on, if you can tell us?
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, obviously I've got the Pandorica prequel we're working on. But I've got a passion project that I've been working on for quite a few years now, actually, called Glow, which is Tron meets Kill Bill, basically.
Nice.
Yeah, it's got a very unique look, and it's kind of my baby. So I'm sort of trying to birth that into reality now. You know, if I tried to make it a few years ago, I think people wouldn't have been interested. But now, because of Pandorica and because of Redwood, you know, I'm in a fortunate position where people are like, okay, let's look at this seriously, and hopefully you guys are going to see that soon, because I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but it's kind of like, you know, that's my Star Wars, if you will. I've been working on it for a long time, and such a cool mythology. We barely use any CGI, but it visually looks like nothing I've ever seen, I think, and I'm excited to try to bring that to screen. So you'll probably interview me in a few years and I'll be like, oh yeah, I still haven't got Glow done, you know. But, definitely pursuing it heavily at this point. So
and endemic, what's endemic? Because everywhere I was looking for you and trying to do a little bit of research, endemic kept coming up.
Endemic's a really personal project in some respects. You know, it's a script that I wrote. It was sort of my introduction to the film industry, if you will, and you know, everybody kind of went crazy for the script. You know, it had a real sort of like zeitgeisty feel. Lots of people trying to get in on the project. Lots of people saying they're interested in it, and it got to a fairly frustrating point for me where I almost felt like, you know, I was so close to the project that, you know, it was almost stopping me from doing other things. So I decided to step back, do Pandorica, and obviously I've done Redwood now, and you know, I mean, it's a great script and it's there and there's still interest in it. So you never know, it might end up being something that I do fairly soon, but. You know, the film itself was, I described it as Shameless meets 28 Days Later. It's not a zombie film at all, but it's, you know, I come from a place called Warsaw, just north of Birmingham, and it's not the most affluent area, and, you know, I put a lot of, like, what I saw growing up and a lot of things that, you know, I felt influenced me, and I think there's a big culture in the UK, especially from towns that aren't from London. You know, we kind of all, we all feel that we've got to get out some way, you know. So you've either got the people that want to break out of where they come from, or you've got the other people that are like, there's no point in trying to get out because no one will want you. And there's this very sort of like prison mentality somewhere where there's no walls, if you will. And I really wanted to explore that in a horror context. And you know, the film was about, and is still about, if we ever make it, but it's about a girl called Jenny, and she suffers from anxiety. She's got an 11-year-old son. And she's planning to leave town, you know, she's desperate to leave. And on the day that she goes to leave town, a virus breaks out, which essentially gives everybody panic attacks. You know, it makes everybody freak out, and the virus's only purpose is to pass on. So, you know, everybody's freaking out, and she has to essentially learn to control herself if she's going to make it outside, you know. So it's a big metaphor for, you know, controlling your fears and getting out from where you're from. But you know, we had a great cast lined up and stuff, so who knows? Maybe we will do it, and if we do, it'll be quite close to me. You know, a lot of the characters in there are based on, one of them is based directly from my own gran. So you know, who was a chain smoking swearer. It was awesome.
The best.
Well, you know, you never know. Redwood's going to come out soon, and you might get people scrambling to get you signed up, and you can do anything you want. Sky's the limit.
Yeah, people keep coming at me now, like, you know, have you got any scripts? And I just go, cool, here's Endemic, because it's ready to go, and you know, it's on its 10th draft. And you know, I think if somebody falls in love with it and they see what we've done with Redwood particularly, I think that they'll jump on it. So maybe we'll see it, and that's why I haven't taken it down from IMDb. It's why the pages are still on Facebook, because there's a little bit of me that believes it'll still come to light, and when it does, I think it could be quite special. It's a very Attack the Block-esque movie, you know. So who knows? We'll see.
I like the sound of it.
That sounds good.
I hope that gets made one day.
Yeah, me too.
so we kind of we're going to start wrapping up now, but we've got a couple of quick little questions for you. One of them was basically your biggest sort of. We already touched on it during the Pandorica, but who would you say is your biggest influences in making your movies?
Yeah, I mean, it's so tough. I've got so much respect for different filmmakers, but for me, early John Carpenter, and I think because, you know, he represents a filmmaker who, in a time where you shouldn't have been able to do the kinds of things he did for the money he did, he didn't listen. He was like, "No, I'm going to do it," And Assault on Precinct 13 and Escape from New York are two of my favourite movies because they just look and feel so much bigger than what they actually had to play with, and they still hold up today. You still look at them as a filmmaker, and they're a masterclass in how to do low budget filmmaking. And I think it's hard for me to say that didn't influence me. I use a lot of block off shots. I love big wide shots. Which is something a lot of indie filmmakers don't try and do. I think they're almost scared to get away from the 50mm lens. Whereas I'm always like, hey, let's shoot the 20mm, the 19mm shot first. So we've got this huge, big, wide master shot, and I'm always using it in the edit. And that's a very Carpenter thing to do, I think. So, yeah, he's probably my biggest influence. But I also love, like I said earlier, Neil Marshall, from a modern aesthetic. I think The Descent is a masterpiece. I think you can see echoes of films like Doomsday and Centurion in Pandorica. So
I said that in my initial review about the sort of it drew like sort of can't think of the word. It drew a sense of Doomsday anyway. It felt like that for me, and your synth score over the top is just phenomenal.
That was by these guys, the Prototypes, Max Sweary. I mean, if you like that score, it's on Spotify. You can listen to it, and also there's an album influenced by. We got a load of cool artists that liked the film, and then they made songs that they said that were inspired by the movie, essentially. So there's 2 albums out there that you can go and get involved with on Pandorica. But yeah, the score, it's the most important thing. Like you can have a great image, shit sound, and rubbish music. The film will be rubbish. Yeah. But you can have a sort of mediocre image and incredible music and incredible sound, and people love it. And I think a lot of filmmakers don't put enough emphasis on that. So again, indie filmmaker advice, think about your sound, think about your music, and really how that's going to feel and how that's going to affect your film, because it's the most important thing. So
I feel like we're about ready to make a movie now.
I think we are now.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, well, one last thing for you, Tom. We have a segment on Indie Talk called 365 Picks, and this is a list of 365 movies that we think people should watch before they die. So, if you had to pick a movie to add to this list, what movie would you pick to add to it?
Wow, that is hard, isn't it? Wow.
It's not
just one.
It's not necessarily a movie that you must watch, but that you should watch.
Okay, I'm a huge fan of Apocalypto. And
nice. Nice.
I think you should watch that before you die.
Yeah.
Fairly random answer, but yeah, I think it's an incredible movie. It ticks a lot of boxes for me. I love films set outdoors, obviously. I think it took some real balls to make a film so culturally true. Particularly with in its own language, and just everything about it is in my opinion masterful. So yeah, I would put that on your watch list immediately.
That is an excellent choice and brilliant.
That's an out of the box one anyway. Yeah,
it is.
I didn't expect that.
I like that. And like we always tell
I should have said Beverly Hills Chihuahua. That would have really threw you, right?
No.
But like we
always it back off again.
We do always like to say that you could have chose your own movie, though.
Yeah, but who does that, right?
Nobody so far.
Nobody so far. No.
It wouldn't even occur to me. So I'm like, you've got better things to do your Saturday night. Watch Apocalypto.
I do quite like Apocalypto. I've only ever seen it maybe twice, but I do like it.
Actually, I got Sky Movies put back in, maybe a couple months ago or something like that, and that is on there, and I rewatched it, and it is really bloody good.
Yeah,
it's a very unique cinematic experience, and I think that again, you talk about the fire in Pandorica, and it was really just this big scene of fire, but Apocalypse is full of moments like that. There's the trap that hits the ball right at the beginning, and it's so simple, but it's so effective. And yeah, it's great. What did you guys pick out of interest? What were your films?
We've had a few now.
I put Jaws on because that's my favourite movie of all time.
Yeah, of course.
Kev was threatening to veto Jaws, so I thought, no, screw you, you're not doing that.
You can't veto Jaws.
Yeah,
Yeah, but he's an asshole, you see, so he would do that to me.
My plan was that I was going to do Twitter polls as well. So I was going to have like Jaws and maybe Shawshank Redemption. And if Shawshank got chosen, Jaws could never be put on the list. And so straight away, Chris was like, okay, first movie, Jaws.
Yeah. So are you a Shawshank Redemption guy then? Is that?
I do love Shawshank Redemption, but that was just like an idea of what I was going to do, and then Chris totally spoiled that. So, because one thing I love to do on the podcast is just antagonise him. So,
yeah,
well, everyone's got to have one of those, like a bit like me and Mike Beckingham, him not being Batman. So. Try to get that in there again real quick.
This has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. We've been talking for a little while now, and I'm so happy to actually finally sit down and just have a crack with you.
Guys, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, and just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a cracking job. Pandorica's great. We cannot wait to see Redwood. And, I'm going to look out in the future as well for anything else that comes up.
Definitely. Seconded.
Thanks,
and if you happen to be doing sort of press talk for Redwood when it comes out and you want to come on the show with Nicholas Brendon, then there's one podcaster right here that would be very, very...
In our opening theme tune, we got a lad that we know to do like Star Trek, but it's sort of metal guitar Star Trek, and he got one of his American friends to sort of introduce us. I mean, you'll hear it if you listen to the episode anyway, but Chris is referred to as a Scottish Whedon whore, so...
Well, that's the worst thing you can be called, I think. So
well, that's it. That's it. And, Kev is a pissy ex-video store clerk, so I'd rather be a Whedon whore, to be honest.
Because he is a big Whedon. He's a big Whedon fan. Excellent, man. So we'll sort of end the chat there, and Chris and I will round out the rest of the episode with a little outro kind of thing. But honestly, Tom, this has been great. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah, thank you, man.
It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you.
And
I'll speak to you soon, no doubt. Man, listen, honestly, like, aside from the podcast, thank you so much for supporting the film and the thing, it's a film like this lives or dies on people supporting it and people like yourselves, like, promoting it. So, it really means a lot, man. And as soon as Redwood's out and doing bits and pieces, man, I'll come back at you and see.
So, thank you very much, buddy.
Good stuff.
Right, take it easy.
Thanks, man. You too.
Good luck with the editing.
Hi. This is Mark from the Tangent Bound Network. I need a little help. I'm working with a manufacturer to create some working prototypes of some really cool audio equipment for some testing. If these items work and all is good, I'm going to license these items and I'm going to kickstart my own business venture with working models to show you how awesome they really are and what you helped me accomplish. My end goal is to create a great startup company with a new lineup of quality manufactured audio equipment, i.e. studio quality microphones and studio monitoring headphones. Maybe a little bit later on I'm going to be working on USB mixers, etc., etc., etc. But in the meantime, I need to put these in your hands without any extra hassles and all this other stuff. But again, in order to do it, I need working prototypes of these equipments. So essentially, kind of, if you would, please, pretty please with sugar on top, or if you prefer, artificial sweetener, because I'm equal opportunity here, pretty please with sugar on top, artificial sweetener, with whatever it is you want on top, please consider donating. When phase 2 rolls around, there will be some great rewards headed your way to get these completely manufactured and when all is said and done. So anyway, head over to gofundme.com/helpmecreate-something-awesome. Now, in between each word is a hyphen, so it's help-me-create-something-awesome. Anyway, yeah, head over to gofundme.com and check it out. Please consider donating, because this is going to be a really cool thing. And for those that do help out, they will be remembered for when we do the actual Kickstarter for the business itself. There will be some amazing rewards, and I'm telling you, it's going to be huge. So thank you very much.
So that was Tom.
That was Tom.
We've got to record an outro.
What?
You can't just sit there and think we're done. You've got to record an outro. You can't just end an episode.
I didn't think we were done.
You did, though. You were taking the headphones off.
I was readjusting the headphones.
You were readjusting. Okay, so that was the interview with Tom Paton. Tom was absolutely fantastic. I cannot wait to see Redwood. I really think you should go and watch Pandorica. If you haven't seen it already, you will love it. It's proper post-apocalyptic. It's just a great film.
And it's 365 recommended as well.
And it's 365 recommended. And apparently, Tom's Batman. Not Mike. Which he seems to be taking umbrage with.
I think so, yeah.
Because I sent him a Facebook chat earlier, basically saying, so the episode will be coming out soon, and apparently you're not Batman. And he told me, yes, he was, in no uncertain terms.
Beat the shit out of each other at the premiere of Redwood then?
No, well, I'm sure it'll be fine. But I think we ain't getting an invite to that now, because I might have incited something.
Oh, man.
I might have incited something.
I want to meet Nicholas Brendon.
Yeah, one day.
Yeah.
After Buffy. But yeah, again, Indie Talk will be back with another episode. Not entirely sure who's going to be on it yet, but there will be another one.
Oh, they're lining up. But
we're having to beat them off with a shitty stick.
Exactly.
But you will always get, every fortnight, you will get our normal episode. That's sort of the format we're going with now. It'll always drop on a Friday, hopefully, depending on editing and shit like that. And we're going to try and get an Indie Talk in between each episode. And that probably will happen because people do keep contacting us.
That's how it tends to go, isn't it?
Yeah,
you get a couple of quiet weeks and then everybody at the same time.
Exactly.
It's fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah. I do like it, though.
Yeah.
So,
it's good.
Indie Talk, more Inbound, normal episodes. Keep listening to them. Tom Paton, thank you very much. Cannot wait to see Redwood.